Blue Horizon Oceanic Park, a day of horror. What started as an ordinary performance at Blue Horizon Oceanic Park quickly spiraled into a nightmare. Fans had eagerly paid to witness a dazzling display, only to see it transform into tragedy when Neptune, the park star Orca, turned on his trainer, Ellington. In a shocking moment, Neptune attacked, dragging Meris underwater with such force that families, including many with small children, could only watch in horror as a once magical experience became stained with blood and sorrow. Nestled in San Diego, California, Blue Horizon had long been celebrated as a premier marine attraction. Beyond its famous orca shows, visitors marveled at its state-of-the-art aquariums, interactive dolphin encounters, and vibrant coral reef exhibits. Yet, nothing compared to the draw of Neptune, a massive, 20-foot, 10,000-pound killer whale whose spellbinding routines attracted thousands of spectators each week and underpinned the park's financial success. Behind the scenes, however, trouble was brewing. Trainers had increasingly noted Neptune's erratic behavior, from slamming his tail against the tank walls to outright ignoring commands. Despite these alarming signs, management insisted on keeping the shows running, emphasizing Neptune's critical role in the park's revenue. Ellington, a dedicated 27-year-old marine biologist, had worked relentlessly to become Neptune's primary handler. Growing up along Oregon's rugged coastline, her passion for marine life led her to Blue Horizon, where her skill and commitment quickly earned her the respect of her peers. Confident in her bond with Neptune, she dismissed concerns about his behavior, although a senior trainer had voiced serious worries months earlier, even requesting Neptune's retirement or removal from performances. When management ignored these warnings, that trainer resigned in protest, a decision that would later be seen as a prelude to catastrophe. On the day of the fatal show, Meris had already completed one performance that went off without a hitch. As the amphitheater filled with excited families anticipating Neptune's signature leaps and synchronized routines, Meris reassured her colleagues that the Orca was in a good mood. With final reviews of safety protocols completed, the show began. Neptune glided into the tank with his characteristic grace, drawing cheers from approximately 500 spectators. He flawlessly executed his initial routines, including a dramatic breach that sent a colossal splash over the front row, momentarily rekindling memories of his former brilliance. Then came the finale, a synchronized swim meant to highlight the deep connection between trainer and Orca. As Meris entered the water, Neptune circled her, his immense black and white form slicing through the clear blue. At her cue for a breach beside her, he hesitated, then, without warning, deviated from the routine. In an instant, Neptune lunged, clamping his powerful jaws around Meris's midsection. Her head emerged briefly from the water as the audience erupted in horrified screams before Neptune yanked her forcefully back under. Trainers on the platform immediately sprang into action, tossing brightly colored buoys, ropes, and even a bucket of fish in a desperate attempt to distract Neptune. Two trainers wielded long poles to nudge him away, but his wild thrashing rendered any intervention dangerously ineffective. Repeated blows against the tank walls sent Meris's limp body surging to the surface, only to be dragged back down moments later. After over a minute of relentless assault, Neptune finally released her lifeless form, which floated sadly at the surface. Rescue divers plunged into the water and hauled her to the deck, where medics worked frantically to revive her, efforts that proved futile. With catastrophic injuries including multiple fractured ribs, a punctured lung, and severe blunt force trauma, Meris was pronounced dead at the scene. In the chaotic aftermath, guests were swiftly evacuated as emergency personnel secured the area. Within hours, Blue Horizon announced the permanent suspension of all Orca shows. Meris's devastated parents soon filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the park, alleging negligence and citing ignored warnings about Neptune's aggression and the perils of isolating such a powerful animal. Although the case never reached a courtroom, prolonged negotiations led to a substantial, confidential settlement. As part of this agreement, the park also pledged support for marine conservation initiatives and independent research into the mental health of captive orcas. Despite these measures, the tragedy sent shockwaves throughout the marine park industry, igniting fierce debates over the ethics of orca captivity. Devoid of its star attraction, Blue Horizon's attendance plummeted, eventually leading to financial collapse and bankruptcy. Neptune was later relocated to a marine sanctuary in British Columbia, where he was given a chance to live in a more natural setting, a bittersweet outcome for Meris's grieving family. Tenner's turbulent waters, Toccoa's fury. Orca-related disasters have reverberated across the globe, even in nations famed for their glittering entertainment. In Tenner, a chilling incident forever altered the life of 29-year-old marine biologist Claudia Volha. At Loro Park in Puerto de la Cruz, a renowned sanctuary sprawled across 135,000 square meters of lush greenery and vibrant habitats, the transformation from a humble parrot haven to a multifaceted attraction had captivated millions with its displays of dolphins, penguins, and awe-inspiring orca performances. Central to the park's allure were the orca shows, featuring breathtaking displays of strength, intelligence, and beauty as the marine giant soared through the air, showering the enraptured crowd with cascades of water. Yet behind the glittering spectacle lurked a more troubled reality. Takawa, a 6-year-old male orca weighing over 1,500 kilograms, was one of the star performers. His imposing size and power left audiences in awe, but for those who worked with him, his temperament was far more complex. Trainers like Claudia had spent years learning to read every subtle flick of his tail and slight tilt of his head, yet the inherent wildness of orcas meant their moods were never entirely predictable. Takawa's early life was fraught with hardship. Only months after his birth, he was separated from his mother, Taima, whose growing aggression, believed to be rooted in her own traumatic past, forced this painful parting. Raised by a seasoned female, Kina, and frequently paired with his half-brother Tua, Takawa's formative years were marked by instability. His subsequent transfers to SeaWorld San Antonio and later to Laurel Park only deepened his struggles, as frequent bouts of aggression from peers left lasting physical scars. For Claudia Volhaar, the sole female orca trainer at Laurel Park and a marine biologist from Weinheim, Germany, working with orcas had always felt instinctively natural, a dramatic departure from her former life in fashion. Over the years, she had forged a profound bond with Takawa. Yet on the day of the incident, an unusual tension gripped the training session. Standing at the pool's edge, Claudia awaited Takawa's signal as his massive form cut through the water. At first, he approached in a calm, almost reassuring manner. The planned exercise was simple. Takawa was to gently nudge Claudia's feet with his snout, a familiar and routine gesture that exemplified their synchronicity. Then, something went horribly wrong. Instead of his customary grace, Takawa's movements became unnervingly forceful. In a split second, his snout collided violently with Claudia's chest, robbing her of breath. Before she could regain her footing, Takawa surged forward again, slamming into her with his full weight and plunging her into a deadly struggle beneath the water's surface. His teeth grazed her arm as he dragged her downward into the pool's deepest point, 40 feet below, where the crushing pressure left her lungs constricted and her vision a blur. Despite frantic kicks and desperate attempts to break free, Claudia found herself overpowered by the raw, unyielding strength of this unpredictable creature. Seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity before Takawa abruptly released her, propelling both back toward the surface. Gasping in the cold air, Claudia's body trembled as onlookers watched in stunned disbelief. Her colleagues, witnessing the terrifying ordeal from the poolside, rushed to extract her from harm's way. Rushed to the hospital, she ultimately survived the attack, but not without severe injuries, a broken elbow, a bruised lung, and deep internal trauma. Even as doctors strove to stabilize her condition, it was clear that the mental scars from this harrowing encounter would persist long after the physical wounds healed. In response, the park's management decided to suspend all water-based training sessions with Takawa indefinitely, a sobering acknowledgement of the inherent risks in working with wild, unpredictable animals. Underscore 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 underscore. Can-do, the tragic tale of a captive orca. The story of Can-do further underscores the profound toll that captivity can exact on these magnificent creatures. Captured as a calf from the wild waters off Iceland in 1977, Can-do's early life was marred by trauma. The violent separation from her pod, a family bond that orcas hold sacred, was both cruel and shattering. Initially taken to Marine World Africa USA in California, she was soon transferred between several parks, including Six Flags Over Georgia and Ontario Place Marine in Toronto, before finally finding herself at SeaWorld San Diego, where she would become a celebrated performer. Can-do's routines were a marvel to behold, showcasing her intelligence, strength, and agility through stunning flips, jumps, and synchronized movements. Yet, behind the polished performances lay a growing unrest. The relentless pressures of confinement in enclosures that were a poor substitute for the vast ocean, combined with the loss of her family, began to erode her spirit. Her distress became particularly evident after personal tragedies, first with the stillbirth of her calf Winston in 1986, and later with the birth of her daughter, Orchid. As time passed, Can-do's behavior grew increasingly erratic. In fact, on March 4, 1987, footage emerged of her forcefully slamming into a trainer and dragging him to the bottom of the pool, a grim precursor to what was to come. On August 21,